Oh, hey everybody, it's T, and I'm back with a new video. Yes, and so is Mr. Blaha. He's gonna tell you, hey everybody, he's back too with a new video on some baloney fitness. Okay, well we're gonna review this video by Jason Blaha, the gym lifting recruiting lifting slave today. Yeah, let's see what Blaha has come up with this time. Oh brother, Blaha says dietary cholesterol isn't linked to heart disease, but saturated fat is. That is absolutely false and fake. Like he is. He's making this stuff up.
Everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would sit down and do another video for you guys and gals. Let me give you guys a warm shot before we get started.
The chicken wing, he's going to give you a chicken wing shot, bro. Look, man, anybody could come close up to the camera and try to look massive and big. Here's the thing. You're going to look really small if you go far away from the camera. And you may, it depends, to show your true body size, you have to be so close to the camera. Now, if you come too close to the camera, you know what I mean? Really, things are going to start coming out. You know that? You're going to really start to observe the person in a closed environment, close to the camera. You can actually see really what they look like. And here's the thing. Sometimes if they move certain body parts, they may look bigger than what they are, because that's what he's trying to do. But in fact, he looks really small close up in the camera. Look at him carefully. Look at Blaha. He looks really small because he's small. He's a small dude. He's short and he's small.
All right, forearms are on point.
Why else does he have to do that? Why doesn't he give you a bicep shot? Hasn't he been doing his biceps now for a while? He should be proud to show you the gains in these biceps, because there are none. This is all bullshit.
I had someone try to argue with me in the comments, and they jumped up and said, you need to educate yourself.
They argued with him in the comments. My God, how dare they argue with Blah in the comment section?
Well, you picked the wrong person for that. Because don't you know, because I was talking about saturated fat, that the dietary cholesterol and cardiovascular disease myth has been debunked.
It has. It's been debunked a long time ago, man.
Of course it has. What does that have to do with anything I talk about on this channel? That is the...
It has a lot to do with everything. You want to see, look, in my community section, I've just been posting this stuff now. I didn't even know he was doing videos on it. But you could go to my community section. I post stuff all the time. And I already know this through experience. So I just post the information for people to read. They could discern, they could figure it out for themselves. So this is the first one about avoid coconut oil, palm oil, coconut butter, and shea oil. All these things. These are all high in saturated fat and are being used more and more in vegan foods. It is important to check the labels, types of foods. Watch out for these. What do they do? Why is my cholesterol high if I'm a vegan? Because some vegan desserts and cheeses are made with what? Coconut oil, palm oil, and particularly hydrogenated oils, which are all known to increase cholesterol, refined carbohydrate intake as well. A diet high in refined carbohydrates and sugars can also lead to what? Elevated cholesterol. So, man, I don't know. Your body needs healthy fats for energy and other functions, but too much saturated fat can cause what? Cholesterol to build up in the arteries, LDL, increase the risk of what? Heart disease. So this stuff, this vegan diets, they do what? They elevate the bad cholesterol, they give you heart disease and strokes and a whole bunch of stuff, okay? Man, but when it comes to animal fat, why is beef so good? Because research has shown that cholesterol particles derived from what? From animal fat do not increase risk of heart disease. In fact, studies have shown that natural saturated fats found in beef can actually reduce the risk of heart disease by lowering LDL cholesterol bad and improving the ratio of HDL good cholesterol. Yeah. What are the benefits of beef? Beef itself is one of plant's most nutrient-dense foods. So it is no surprise that the nutrient profile in beef fat contains vitamin D, vitamin E, conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, and cerealic acid. Beef fat can be used as a cooking oil, which makes everything taste amazing as it heightens the flavor of any dish. That too, and it's healthy for you. Get it? and it protects you because Dr. Berg already did this. There's a video, you could check it out. I don't know. There's some video there I put in, or I think it's this section right here. This one right here with Dr. Berg. If you watch this video, listen to what he has to say.
There's a very interesting study on rats that I want to tell you. And there's 3 groups of rats. And in the first group, they fed lard and alcohol to these rats. Okay, lard is pig fat. Second group, they fed beef fat, it's called tallow, and alcohol to these rats. And then in the third group, they fed them corn oil and alcohol. Now, what's interesting is the first group, the lard and the alcohol, had minimal damage to the livers. And then this test, they were testing for like liver damage and then the development into a fatty liver because there was alcohol involved. I kind of wish they would have added one more group with this test, like a group of mice that only consumed alcohol just to see what would happen. But anyway, the first group that had pig fat, lard, and alcohol, they had minimal damage to the liver. The next group with the tallow, beef fat, and alcohol, they had virtually no damage to the liver. What does that mean? That means that beef fat could potentially be protective to the liver. That's one idea. That's interesting. It's actually fascinating, especially since I consume a lot of beef fat in my diet, and I don't seem to.
It's also protective. It's also protective for your entire cells, all of your cells in your body. That's what it's doing. It's protecting your cells in your body. Okay, it's protecting you. So there you go.
Of course it does. What does that have to do with anything I talk about on this channel? That is the problem. You find this whole area, these people who have...
Beef fat is high in cholesterol, and it protects your body. They've done scientific tests, proof. Man, it protects you from everything, from fucking cancer, get rid of cancer, your liver, heart disease, you name it. Beef and beef fat protects your body from cellular senescent, aging, myogenic decline, a whole wide array of things. But you keep eating your fake diets and all that. I try to tell you why didn't pork win in that test that Dr. Berg mentioned? Why didn't pork win? Pork fat. It did okay, but it's not as good as beef. Why? Because pork is pigs are carnivore animals. They're putrid. They're putrid animals. Now, why didn't the vegan diet win? Because it's putrid, it's garbage. Okay, it's garbage. And then why did beef win? Because it's the number one thing. It's a herbivore animal. They eat grass, dude. They're herbivore animals, okay? They don't eat meat. They're the best quality that you could buy when it comes to meat and fat. Beef. Okay, bro? So if you're asking me, I mean, I know. We can't eat wild animals, okay? The best you could do is eat cow. All right? Eat cows. Okay? And some seafood. So that's the best you could do because everything's domesticated. Like you're domesticated. Everything is domesticated now. But what can you do? That's the best that we could do. But that is better than the alternative.
This pro-red meat, pro-saturated fat. Oh, we live on nothing but red meat and eggs, butter. These people...
Look, it took me a while to figure out how to reverse aging and get younger. I finally figured it out. I went back to look at all these tests, and I learned a lot about. I've been reading a lot about in science. I've been studying a lot of science here. I've been reading their PubMed reports, their NCBI reports. There's other reports that are there much deeper that you have to go into to understand this cellular senescence, myogenic decline, a whole bunch of stuff. I found out that cells are actually immortal. They're immortal, and what do? They actually pass on when they divide, they pass their junk on to the next cell. So there is very, very specific things that you want to do when cells are dividing. You understand? You don't want them to pass junk on to the next cell. That's the reason why in like Use It or Lose It, Satellite Cell Use It or Lose It PubMed, they tell you, to the acquisition of senescent cells, myogenic decline and all that by periodically activating the satellite cell. And it only periodically activates in what? In an adaptation. And that's what I explain to people. People don't understand that. And then what you want to do is protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown. However, definitely protein synthesis, but The sparing effect and energy is the animal fat. I'm not talking about carbohydrates now. Remember, we're older people now. We're not young people. We're not going to eat carbs. They're going to destroy us. Mitochondria, they're very particular. They run better on animal fat as an energy source. So that energy source in the animal fat will spare that protein in the building process to get rid of the senescence and myogenic decline. So by you periodically activating it like it says there, see what I mean? Doing that, it's a very specific training. Now, if you want to keep training like a young person, going on and on forever, going to the gym, lifting a heavy weight, and accelerated aging and eating carbohydrates and sugar all day, go ahead. But that's just going to accelerate aging and make you old and decrepit and piece of shit. And you're going to be crippled, walking like an old man, barely moving your legs when you get older. Me personally, I don't want that. I'm seeking to rejuvenate myself, to regenerate myself. I want to be younger and stronger and functional. And that's what I'm becoming now. I'm becoming more functional, better, stronger, and faster like I was when I was 25 years old. You need to shoot for 25, but all of you are shooting for 100, like Ronnie Coleman.
No basic nutrition, basic biology, or even how science works. They're not.
Look at Blaha. He's an example. Sarcopenia, it's already hit him. He's got the big belly, the small arms, and the skinny legs. That is a sign of sarcopenia, the loss of myogenic decline. And he's got a lot of senescent cells. You could tell just looking at his skin and his body, he's filled with senescent cells, the aging process. Loss of hair, teeth, and everything else. He's got skin disease, metabolic diseases, especially because of his diet. It's a vegan diet. It's mostly vegan. I don't know. He does eat some meat, but a lot of it's too much vegan now, and a lot of fake foods.
Educated. They're not educated. You can tell whenever they bring up the cholesterol thing. Yes, that has been debunked, but that is not what we're talking about. We're not even talking about dietary cholesterol. Okay. What we're talking about is saturated fat. Those are two very separate things. Yes, there can be a lot of overlap. Now, keep in mind, the old data that even raised the cholesterol myth was the Ansel Keys 7-Nation study conducted like 50 years ago. We can argue about the quality of the research there. Granted, it was purely correlational data, epidemiology, and the countries were a little cherry-picked. Okay, this makes it a bit problematic. So no one is standing here saying, well, that study still holds, and yes, the dietary cholesterol.
Ansel Keys was a piece of crap. He was paid by the industry. He sold his soul to destroy nations.
Cholesterol is a full problem. No, dietary cholesterol isn't always linked with blood cholesterol, right? Only in certain individuals with certain genetic predispositions can it be. It's not the majority.
They talk too much about inflammation is the cause of this as well. This cholesterol, rise in cholesterol, inflammation, a whole bunch of stuff. Again, if you're asking me personally, animal fat is the best thing to wear off all these problems. Animal fat, that's it, animal fat and beef. Now, I'm not saying you should eat a lot of protein, but you should eat more animal fat than protein. You require a lot of energy. Think about it. If everybody's eating carbohydrates as energy, the slave food as energy, they're eating shitloads of it, but they eat very little protein on their plate. There's a little piece of meat, but everything else is all energy, right? There's sugar, their Coca-Colas, their potatoes, their salad, their green salads, whatever else they're eating, their vegetables and all that, all those carbohydrates, okay? You're using that as an energy source, a shitty energy source. Sugar. But in fact, you should be eating meat and then a lot of animal fat. It's more protective to your cells, makes you younger, stronger, and better. Your mitochondria prefer to run off of animal fat, not sugar all day. See what I mean? So people eating carbs all day, bread, this, that, whatever, pastas, all these nasty carbs as an energy source. That's why they're always messed up. They're messed up people. Everything in their body's messed up. Their hormones and everything is totally messed up. When you go on a high-fat animal fat diet and protein like beef, wow! I mean, even the first week when you just transcend, it's like godly. I can't even explain it. You just are on a different level, a different plane. You just are feeling like a different person. It's incredible.
You people. But what is a problem is LDL cholesterol absolutely causes atherosclerosis.
I love how this human acts as if he knows something. Well, I read something, I saw something, but but he's not going off his own experiences, right? His own experiences are killing him. He's listening to these phony people telling him, well, you should do this and that, you should lift a heavy weight because you're weak and all that. How's that working for you, Blaha? How's that bodybuilding? How's that working out every day working for you? How is that tofu and spaghetti and hot dogs working for you and those chemicals and that coffee and everything, your bean coffee soup there, your toxic bean soup coffee? How are they working for you? They're not. They're not. It's kind of obvious. Body does the talking, bro. You're speaking, but body will do the talking for you, but it's saying nothing. Get it?
It's been pretty well confirmed in the research. We also know that saturated fat elevates LDL cholesterol. The amount
Saturated animal fat does not do that. And I already just proved it. Vegan diet saturated fat does that for you.
varies from person to person based upon genetics. But there
No, it doesn't. It doesn't vary from person to person according to genetics. It varies person to person depending on vegan diet or high animal fat diet. You're not?
is a direct relationship, and there's a direct causation.
Absolutely not.
Now, here's the issue with that. Yes, there's going to be overlaps of foods, but here's the problem. This changes the food sources. Why? Because there are foods that have nearly zero saturated fat that have a fair amount of cholesterol in them.
Then my mom should be dead already because she eats a lot of animal fat. She eats a lot of animal fat because she grew up on a farm in Europe before she ever immigrated to Canada. So she should be dead. And I was never, I hated animal fat. I mean, I still ate some, but I never liked animal fat. I was stupid because she never trained me to eat animal fat. She was trained because that's what they fed you on these farms. Because that was what was, the funny part is this: there's a lot of fat left over when they sell the meat in the markets. And the truth is, it's the fat that is more important than the meat. Yeah, it's actually better for you. And that's why I'm trying to buy one of these. I'm going to buy one of these mills where you could grind up the fat. I'm going to put it in there and grind it up and eat it. And so I could buy pieces of fat in the Asian market. They cut them. They don't throw anything away. So they cut them up, and I can buy that fat and grind it up. See, they have all these lean pieces of meat. They always tell you lean cuts of meat, when the fact is I don't want lean cuts of meat. I want as much animal fat as I can get in my diet.
Right? So it's kind of important to know this. There are also plant sources of saturated fat that have zero cholesterol in them.
That's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. They're all filled with fucking saturated fat. Okay?
Okay? That's why it's important to make this distinction, because when people say, oh, well, the cholesterol is the issue, so I can eat this or that in copious amounts and it's not going to affect me long-term in terms of cardiovascular risk. Well, I'm sorry, the evidence does not support that. The evidence supports that
Okay, sugar is going to cause your cholesterol to go up. Okay, these carbohydrate diets and all that kind of stuff. And then all you people go to the gym and you start running on treadmills and all these kinds of things. My friend recently died of cardiovascular disease because he couldn't stop eating carbohydrates. He ate a lot of carbohydrates and he died. He died, man. Okay, before his 60th birthday. He's dead. And I know a lot of people right now that are going to die soon because of that. They're dying. They're dropping more and more now than ever because more people eat these fake diets, these vegan fake diets. Get it? They're all suffering from cardiovascular disease. Now, as far as I know, I laugh at these people. I always say, yes, I'm so unhealthy because I eat very unhealthily. I eat meat and I eat animal fat, beef fat. That's why I'm so healthy. I can run so fast. I'm strong. I look built and all kinds of stuff. That's why I'm so unhealthy, I tell them. And I tell them that's why you're so healthy. That's why you're in a walker with crutches and all this kind of stuff. You could barely move because you eat healthy. You eat vegan diets, all you people. And I just laugh at them as I run by. I always tell this lady, I see her sometimes. She's like in this little go-kart going down the street, and I always tell her, I make fun of her. I say, hey, get your exercise. Get an exercise, eh? Because they can't stop eating these stupid fake diets.
Dietary cholesterol doesn't necessarily raise LDL-C.
Look, all the people that are in the gym that are running on treadmills and lifting, they're all in that level of getting diabetes and possibly and cardiovascular disease. They're all like at that level where they're just about to get cardiovascular disease. And I can guarantee you a good majority of people that go to gyms die of cardiovascular disease. Yeah, because that's the cause of it. And you're speeding it up by running on treadmills and lifting weights. You get it? That's how stupid people are. They don't realize it until it's too late. They think it's a natural process. It's unnatural. That's the problem.
Okay, and we know that LDL-C absolutely causes cardiovascular disease over an extended period of time. So we need to know.
I say Blaha dies of cardiovascular disease at the age of 50.
These things, and I'll give you some examples. And why it was correlational, because yes, people who eat large amounts of red meat tend to get cardiovascular disease, but it's not because it.
What? People that eat red meat tend to get cardiovascular disease? No, they don't. Did we not just go over this already? This is bullshit.
It has cholesterol in it. It's because it's high in saturated fat. All right, examples.
That saturated fat in animal meat and fat protects you. What are you talking about?
The foods that have cholesterol with nearly zero saturated fat. Egg whites, fat-free dairy, right there. Skim milk, fat-free Greek yogurt, egg whites.
Yogurt's fake. It's processed. It's not real. I eat shitloads of raw eggs. I eat shitloads of raw eggs right now, and I started to increase more of my animal fat and all these kinds of things. And if anything, I'm just better and better all the time.
Perfect examples of foods that have cholesterol in them, that have nearly zero saturated fat, that don't negatively affect your lipids, even when consumed in large amounts. Even lean chicken breasts, lean turkey breasts up there too. They're a little more fat.
No, he's lying to you. If you go look up turkey and chicken, they're absolutely the lowest in any kind of saturated fat. They have almost zero saturated fat.
Than the others, obviously, but it's still very small. These are not associated with cardiovascular risk in spite of having cholesterol. Even
what is he fucking talking about? Meat is not associated with fucking cardiovascular disease, you moron.
Example of zero cholesterol food, palm oil, absolutely correlated with negative health outcomes.
Yes, palm oil. Yes, negative outcomes, yes.
Insulin resistance, elevated bad cholesterol, palm oil,
Yes.
perfect example.
Yes.
Shouldn't eat it if you care about your heart. Has zero cholesterol. So what's the real
Oh, man. Wow.
factor here? Well, the saturated fat. So when you look at that, you say, well, because the dietary cholesterol isn't associated. Well, there is a correlation because a lot of the foods that have a lot of one do have a lot of the other. See, but where are foods that are?
Here's the thing. If you're stressed, how does stress cause cardiovascular disease? Well, it apparently, according to science, when stress is extremely high, cholesterol is through the roof for some reason. I don't know why. I can't tell you. I'm not really sure. Okay? It's complicated science.
Exclusively one or the other. Red meat, fatty red meat of any type, I don't care whether it's beef or pork. Eggs in large amounts, obviously. Butter. These things.
No, actually, butter's not bad for you. Butter's is churned. Butter is definitely churned, But butter is amazing for you. Eggs, raw eggs, butter, beef, and beef fat is gonna be amazing for you. It's gonna protect your heart, dude. It's gonna protects your mitochondria, which protects your heart. If you protect your mitochondria, you'll be protected.
Have both. And the saturated fat of dairy tends to vary upon the form it's in as far as it elevating LDL. That's been known. So when people look at this, they're not understanding that you do need to be concerned with saturated fat and the source of that saturated fat, right? So in other words, we come over and find that whole milk dairy doesn't have that much of a negative effect, but butter does once it's been partitioned out. So if you had to compare it, obviously the palm oil, which is a plant-based, seems to be considerably worse than, say, whole milk or whole fat dairy for that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay? But the other foods is not. The other foods are just as bad. Fatty red meat, problem. Eggs, when you start consuming.
Fatty raw meat is a problem. Wow. This guy's really delusional.
Enough that the saturated fat content accumulates. Eggs have certain health benefits in small amounts. That's why
Oh, these saturated fats, they accumulate. That's like saying eating carbohydrates, they accumulate. They accumulate. You mean the damage accumulates? Like, what exactly are you trying to say here, Blaha? See, animal fat and animal meat doesn't cause you damage, but carbohydrates damage you and damage your mitochondria.
Small amount, we're not as concerned.
It also increases stress in your body. That's why you're bloated. That's inflammation. That inflammation is caused eating these artificial diets, which do what? Raise cholesterol, which what? Heart disease.
Because
cardiovascular disease.
Some of the choline, however we pronounce it, things like that can have certain cardioprotective benefits, right? There are potential things there.
Okay, what are they? Cardio benefits. What are these cardiovascular benefits? Meat, beef, beef fat.
They're helpful. So in trace amounts, eggs aren't really bad, but you start eating, 10 a day, they can be. Absolutely negatively.
Okay, why is 10 a day bad for you? Now, I would doubt that anybody normal who's not working out or doing anything is going to eat 10 a day, 10 eggs a day. Now, if you're trying to build muscle and you're doing something specific, you're going to definitely need 10 a day and more.
Affect your blood work and your long-term cardiovascular risk. It's kind of important to know these things, but this is no longer correlational data we have studied in the lab, and we know, when I say we, the human race, people say, who's we? You don't do the studies. I'm talking about the human species and scientists around the world collectively.
Oh, yeah.
We know, based upon the data, both epidemiology and direct.
We don't know anything. We're human beings. That's why we do tests. If we knew something, then we wouldn't have to do tests, you moron.
Metabolic ward controlled studies, controlled clinical trials, that when significant amounts of saturated fat are consumed, they cause insulin resistance, causes fatty liver.
What? You know what causes fatty liver? The vegan diet, okay? Causes fatty liver, and insulin resistance, okay, dude?
It causes elevated LDL. Elevated LDL is the direct cause of atherosclerosis in humans, okay?
Yeah, that's keep eating those plant diets, and that's what you're gonna get, like Blaha.
This is pretty well established and shown in controlled studies.
Yes. You know what? What builds muscles? What does science say builds muscles? Protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown. Now, if protein was so bad, red meat, eating protein, red meat was so bad, and protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown to build muscle, then why are you lifting in the gym? If he's telling you red meat is bad for you, meat is bad for you. You need meat to build muscles. Protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown to build muscles. So what is the point going there? You're all going to die. You're all going to get cardiovascular disease and die, high cholesterol, all this, because Blaha said so. Get it?
Does that mean that refined sugars aren't bad too? Yes, of course they are. So we come over to the point of people will say they try to blame one or the other. That's where they messed
You know
up.
what the problem is? You can't change the slave mentality mind. You can't change the slave's mind. He's been so enslaved, he's been so indoctrinated, he's been so conditioned at this point that for him, it's like anything that is actually deemed good for you, which really is good for you, which is, for the people that are not slaves, the slave masters, they eat the beef fat and the beef and the good stuff, the seafood and the beef and the good food. And then you get these slaves like him, they eat the slave diet, and then of course they're gonna be against the master's diet because the master has trained the slave to be against that diet so they can keep you as a slave, bro. Get it? They don't want you living longer, you dumbass. They don't want you living longer. They don't want you anything. They want to use you up and discard you like the slave that you are.
Why don't we accept that the data clearly shows
I don't
that
need
large amounts of
data.
saturated fat?
I don't need data to tell me what's going to make me live longer, be stronger, or healthier. Get it, man? I'm the slave master, and you're the slave. Get it? I don't need to listen to you, slave, okay?
Insulin resistance and all sorts of lipid problems. Large amounts of refined fructose, aka table sugar, high fructose corn syrup.
Well, guess what? Us masters, we don't eat any of that, okay? Us masters, you slaves eat that.
To some extent, honey, right? Cause metabolic benefits, insulin resistance, fatty liver.
Yeah.
When you accept that both cause it, people say, well, I took one out and my blood work improved.
I'll agree. Fructose will kill you, will kill your mitochondria, and will kill your strength, your muscles, your cells, everything. It will destroy you. It'll cause apoptosis in your muscle cells. Definitely. A whole bunch of stuff is going to happen. It's going to be really bad. And I know this from experience. I'm talking from experience, okay?
Well, of course it did. If you have two things that are bad for you and you reduce one of them,
all right,
will you see potentially an improvement? Yeah, that's common sense. But if you reduce both of them, it's even better. See how that works?
Yeah.
But people, they can't see the forest for the trees, and they're not looking at what the problems here are.
I see what the problem is. The problem is people like you, Blaha. That's the problem.
And so then you run into the same issue. They bring in, well, the dietary cholesterol. Yeah, you're right. But that doesn't mean that the saturated fat is fine. It's just that the cholesterol content of the food probably isn't an issue for the majority of the population. But the saturated fat is, just like the refined fructose is. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys and gals.
Yeah, it's been so informative that it's been uninformative. You're all over the place, man. You don't really bring out the real science, and it's not based on any of your experience, blah. That's the problem. A lot of it is not based on your experience, because if you went out and did this yourself, you'd know. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Tell what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel, comment down below. Helps with the algorithm. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, my friend. Be very careful and wary of these so-called influencers online. They will influence you in a bad way. See what I mean? Learn from their mistakes. I'm not saying people are not making mistakes online. I've watched Alex Leonidas. I've seen them make mistakes. Learn from their mistakes. They've made mistakes and they said, I made a mistake. And They come out, they tell you, man, they made plenty of mistakes because they're in a learning curve. Get it? They're still learning. Even Blaha is still learning. Why is he doing bodybuilding? He's never done it before. He's done powerlifting all his life. And all of a sudden he's doing fucking bodybuilding. That means he's learning because he doesn't even know about bodybuilding. Doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to eat properly. He doesn't know bodybuilding. He doesn't know anything. All he knows how to do is lift a weight from the floor and drop it. Okay? Any stooge could do that. Man, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, friends. I gotta go.